Well, I kind of rate myself as a bit of a people person, but managing people is a different game, eh? Just personalities, like you can bounce and talk to people, but actually getting people to work together and making sure that everyone's on the same page, it's that's probably the hardest thing.
Hey, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. On this podcast, you're going to hear real life stories from trade business owners to minimize the mistakes you're going to make, maximize profit, create more time freedom, and minimize emotional overwhelm. So hit subscribe and follow us now and enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. Here today with Dean Streater from G&D Electrical Services. I'm really excited to have you on the show, man.
How you going?
Going good. Love everything that you've been doing in the academy, and you come out to a strategy day probably maybe 6 months ago. And
yeah, in July, yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot happening since then, and excited to catch up and for you to share, a lot of things that you've been learning in business in this show today. So thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, not a problem.
So, man, I'd love to talk about, just give everyone a sort of an understanding of your business situation, because yours is a bit of a unique one, but a lot of people do have the situation of how you came into the business.
Yeah, so my old man started the business about 30 years ago. And then when I got to 18 and wanted to go to schoolies, I needed money, get dragged in, and then, you kind of just go along with it. He's kind of taught himself along the way, and then you kind of just run with it because he's the boss. And, we were doing paper for years and years and years, and one of our tradies actually went away for a couple of years and came back, and he was like, "You guys haven't changed, eh?" So... but yeah, no, my brother's also in the business, and just trying to find your way. It's trying to bring yourself into the 21st century is can be very overwhelming, but just taking it one day at a time. And yeah,
love it. Now, you guys have really been making some big changes, and obviously you've been in business that long. Like my electrical business is 15 years, and we sort of came in sort of when the tech sort of situation was taking off in the trade space. So I was lucky enough to jump on early and start to do that from the start. But I was still using a lot of paper. I still had the paper folders. I had paper this and paper that, and I had to sign everything and print everything out. And it has evolved. Like, it's very different to the way it was. Go back 15 years before that, that's when there was hardly any computers to manage jobs, and it was all paper-based. So I can appreciate, like, once you're in a rhythm and you know what works, it's hard to break away from that because there's risk involved with every change that you make in the business as well, eh?
Yeah, 100%. We were expanding a little bit and needed to move into like a factory type thing out of the house. And we went and looked at a place, was like, oh yeah, it's good, right price, all the rest of it. Then old man just pulled out of it, and it was lucky we didn't go into it, because 2 weeks later the place went up in flames. We would have lost a ton of money.
No way. Oh,
yeah.
Great.
So dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah, that's massive. So what was with your dad, like, obviously he pulled out, there's obviously would have been a bit of resistance to change as well. Like, how did your dad finally come about, like, letting go and going, all right, let's just start changing? Yeah,
it's still in the process. We're kind of introduced when we started with you guys last July. We kind of went through the incubator and learned a few things, and went with it. And then SimPro came up, and because you guys were using it and we joined, it made sense. And the whole thing, it's a big system, and trying to get your head around it. And then we changed from MyOb to Zero, and that was also another change. And he was like, come on, like, what are you doing to me here? And I was like, no, it'd be for the best. Yeah. Bring me back the paper. But yeah, now we're kind of getting used to that, and it's so good. Tracking time, tracking money. It's an absolute game changer, and paper can get lost very easily too. especially when you're trading it through the boys and getting it back to the right person to not lose materials and time.
Absolutely. Like, could not imagine how you can, do any micro improvements on paper-based jobs, like it, without sitting there and manually journaling, in a manual spreadsheet, or manually entering data to actually get job efficiencies and what was your labor, efficiency or your material usage or any of that.
You don't know. You just guess. And that's kind of all it's ever been. But now we're kind of getting into the swing of trying to learn how to do the job efficiencies. It came to the Bass quarter, and he's like, "Oh, sweet, we made money." Like, that's how it was. And then the end of the year, there's still money in the account, so you made money for that year.
Yeah. So it's been 30 years. So what's the growth been like with your dad? Like, was he a sole trader for X amount of years and then put on his first staff member?
Yeah, so he was a sole trader, and then he became a business a couple of years later. Used to use subbies, and then decided that was a bad idea because they can be unreliable.
Yeah.
And then started putting on his own blokes, and it's kind of fluctuated over the years from maybe 6 blokes downwards and stuff like that. And then me and my brother joined. It went up, and I think we sat about 8 people. And then I went away for a couple of years overseas and then came back. We had a few people, then everyone just left us. And it was the 3 of us. And you can only imagine what a family affair was like with 3 of us working our asses off.
Yeah, oh my God. Especially if you had the wife for 6.
Yeah. So Christmas dinner, there wasn't much talking.
Yeah. We spent enough time together.
Yeah, 100%.
So you went back. When was that? So when was it just you 3?
Yeah, so that was, should have been back for 9 years. It was probably about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from that point, I was like, I'm never going back to that because it's just too bloody hard. And then if I'd found you guys earlier, it would have been very helpful, but I found you when I found you. So it's just what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then built it up, a couple of apprentices. That's how we kind of started because the apprentices they're good, and then they're the ones you've got to teach the most. So, but yeah, we went from apprentice, tradesman, and then so on and so forth. And there's 12 of us now, including the 3 of us. So since being with you guys, we've put on 2 or 3, something like that. 2, definitely 2. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
What a journey. So what's been some of the big like system changes that you've had to make, and what were the challenges you had in implementing that into the business?
System changes probably with the technology, bringing all that in, getting the boys to do it on their phones. We use Simpro and Microsoft Teams. We did a session with Jordan, and he was rattling off about how many apps he uses, and we were just like, nah, mate, where's one that does it all?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just getting to swing of doing that, we did the timesheets on that and job sheets and all that kind of stuff. And there was a bit of rebellion. Like a couple of years ago, I tried to use WhatsApp for a group chat, and a couple of the boys are like, why would I download an extra app? So I think, so now having these 2, not everyone's very not everyone is very tech savvy, but we're getting there. Everyone's working together, which is good. We've got a good bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing with system changes as well is, while it's difficult in the moment to make a change, once people start seeing the positives that come out the back end of it, there's always resistance. They're like, nah, don't want to change. And then you wait, you get the change implemented, and then a couple of months later, they're like, actually, this is pretty good. So people don't see that the potential, how much better things are going to get. They see the challenge of right now, I have to make a change and I don't want to do it. So it's our job as business owners to convince them to keep going, and we're going to make this change no matter what. And then you get the people that just are completely adverse to change and they don't want to change. And then they might move on and churn out of the business. And then a new person comes in with the change already implemented. and they're like, wow, how good is this? You guys are so organized.
Yeah.
So have you found that with your team?
Yeah, we have. But everyone's still kind of learning it all. So one of the boys is a bit all over it. I would have thought the apprentices would have been all over it, but we're all still at that one. I seem to attract the people who aren't that great with technology, which, yeah, it's super helpful though.
Yeah, gets easier, and especially the longer you use it, you just get to know those little quirks that you've got to, do workaround for or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, no, it's going all right.
Cool. So when did you come into the business as, into the operations with your dad? And started running the business with him?
So I jumped in maybe about three years ago, but I was still on the tools. So he was doing all the paperwork. We didn't have an admin. Brother was also doing the same. So he does data and fiber, and he kind of drifted off that. Not off that, but he sticks to that. Yeah. And then, I was kind of working and doing all that kind of stuff. And then over maybe the last 18 months, old man's kind of taken a bit of a step back-ish. And, I'm kind of trying to step in and trying to work it all out, which is, getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with your dad stepping out, are you finding it's easier or harder without him there?
I try to not rely on him too much. Obviously he's still working, but it's not too bad because obviously I've kind of learnt from him. But there's definitely things that I need to tweak. You just see yourself and you're like, shit, maybe that is a bit better. But then trying to tweak it to the new age as well is that finding that balance. Yeah, is kind of where I'm at.
Doing it slowly enough that people can adopt it and not make mistakes.
And especially brother and my old man, they're also not very tech savvy. So they, just trying to do it slowly and not trying to rush it, which I definitely have done over the last, 18 months. Sometimes I try and throw stuff in and everyone's like, no, stop. And so, yeah.
Got this new app. No.
Yeah. Because we also got jot form, and they were like, "What do I need jot form for?" And I was like, "It's easier."
Yeah, it's easier than getting a pen and writing with your hand.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's been some of the biggest challenges for you? Moving into that role of running the business. Like, what's been things that you found easy, and why do you think they were easy? And what's been some of the hardest things that you weren't expecting to be so hard?
Well, I kind of rate myself as a bit of a people person, but managing people is a different game, eh? Just personalities, like you can bounce and talk to people, but actually getting people to work together and making sure that everyone's on the same page, it's that's probably the hardest thing.
It's so hard.
Yeah, I've got my way, no, my way. And then sometimes two people working together work in the opposite ways, and that's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. We literally, we had Gold Rush Summit last week, and we had a bunch of guys that came out and were doing brainstormings, and pretty much everyone hated managing their team. Like, it was just something they didn't want to have those difficult conversations with anyone. And I think it's pretty standard across the board. I'm sure everyone listening is like, I hate it too. Like, I wish they just did their job properly.
Yeah.
And when the team gets bigger and everyone has different personalities, like you said, like you got to find a way to put them into roles where they thrive, and so that they're working cohesively, which is not easy. It's not easy at all.
Nah, I try to do one-on-ones with the boys, try to get back onto their level and have a chat with them. It's helped out a few of the boys, which is good. And get us all on the same page. But yeah, sometimes finding time to do that, and you're just like, I've got to find time because they're the ones that help you.
Yeah. Well, do you want to walk us through your process of like maybe before you were doing one-on-ones and what it was like in terms of the culture, and then starting to actually do one-on-ones? How has that changed your team? Like, what have you noticed?
I find beforehand it was kind of, the culture itself's always been pretty good. All the boys get along, all that kind of stuff. But maybe things got built up a little bit, at least with the one-on-ones now. yeah, I mean, one of the boys needed to blow off some steam one day, and I just sat there and listened for about an hour and a half, and he was thinking about leaving. And once we'd kind of talked things over and all that kind of stuff, he was like, you know what, I think I just need to get that off my chest. So it was actually really beneficial for us because he's one of a good tradesmen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing is, I'm sure the tradespeople or your staff don't like having those difficult conversations with the boss either, right? Or the managers. And so if you don't create the time and schedule the time to have those meetings, that conversation doesn't get had. And so they just end up leaving. And you're like, why are you leaving? Like, had that happen over and over again, you know? And the one thing that was the reason was that I was too busy. I told myself, you know, I want to get these one-on-ones. I really want to connect. And I was just too busy to have those one-on-ones. And that's, you know, it's expensive, isn't it? When you have to, like, if you lost that player, you know, you would have had to go back to the market, hire again, train. Yeah, it's expensive.
You know, there's 2 months out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, good job, right? Great work and, you know, saving them and making them feel valued and that they can speak to you. And I think that's a great culture, when you can facilitate that space for people.
Yeah, trying to find that middle ground between mate and boss is also so you can make sure you know, have fun with them, but also tell them serious stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So what's been some of the difficult times in business that you maybe didn't think it was going to be so hard?
It's probably the wave of work, you know, because it always comes in. We do a lot of work for a government facility, and slowly trying to branch out. But yeah, just the wave of work kind of hits you because you've also got, you know, 8 blokes standing around doing nothing. What do you what do you do now? What do you do? But thanks to talking to a few of the coaches, like Jordan and stuff, there's some ideas flowing. So next time that kind of comes around, I think I should be pretty prepared.
Yeah, 100%. And those waves, you know, there's a reason they happen as well. And it's usually our attention is somewhere else, or we don't have the right people in the right place, or a process or a system is not being executed. And that has a downstream effect. And what I've realized is it's so slow that unless you've got the time to actually reflect and oversee and look at it, you don't actually know what's happening. And so
until you're in it,
you know, you just that's just the way it is, right? It's like business cycles. It's just the way it is. I think it's always going to be like that. But it is controllable. You can control it by being proactive in certain things. So that's interesting. So with those business cycles, how do you manage yourself through like a high demand period and a low demand period? Maybe like way you used to do it and how you've changed would be a good contrast.
Way I used to do it, I was kind of in working as well. So, you know, and sometimes I still jump back in. It's still on that kind of border of getting completely out. And so when it's busy, we just jump in because it is quite hard to hire at the moment as well. So yeah, before it was kind of, and then I'd see myself, I'd just organise the jobs and they would keep going and I'd just try and keep the boys busy and keep them busy. And then once it starts ramping back up, you jump back in and then you're chasing your tail once again, which is fun.
Is that the way you used to do it?
And slowly getting out of it.
Slowly getting out of it. Have you noticed like the most recent downturn in work? Have you been able to connect that to the reason might have been that you were out on the tools and you weren't managing pipeline?
I did see that, yeah. And it was probably about a month ago. And I was like, why am I doing this? I could get the boys to do it. And then I'm just, otherwise they'll be standing around doing nothing when I could be doing something else. And I've found myself being very inefficient. You know, my phone rings all day and it's just like, shit, I'm here, but I've stood around. I haven't helped you at all.
And I found that was especially the size of business that you have now, that was when the team is dependent on you getting the work and there's no work for them, and they're sitting around, like you said, but you are like so busy trying to get work. It's so stressful. And they're calling you. One person calls you and like, hey, where's the work? I've finished my job early. Oh man, like I'm trying to fill your schedule. I'm so busy over here, but these guys are standing around. It's like the worst feeling ever, eh?
Yeah. And then you hang up from him and the other bloke's calling you and you're like, Jesus, when does this stop?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you've had that awareness, because that's like the start of you going, okay, I can see the impact of me going back on the tools, because it's, especially a size business that you are, like, they're bigger waves, right? It's bigger swell. You got more volume happening.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we need to make sure we're constantly ticking away at that. Awesome. So what's some of the other big realizations that you've had, obviously coming out of the dark ages, paper ages today, into the tech savvy technology world? Maybe coming into the academy, you learned some stuff. What's some of the big impact things that have impacted your team and yourself in the academy?
Big impacts is probably just keeping track of everything. We've kind of got everything. Well, to start with, it was everything in everywhere, and then now everything's kind of in one spot. We're still working on defining where everything is, but we're getting there. It's tough because you're like, oh, I'm used to putting it there, and you're like, oh, I'll make a change, and then it's like, oh, where'd you put it? And we have to do a lot of swims and JSAs and stuff like that. And one of the boys is a stinger for going over the template and mucking it up. So then everybody else can't go back in, and it's just ruined. So then you've got to upload another one and that kind of thing. But now we've got a VA, and we had one a couple of months ago, and she didn't quite work out. And now we've got another one, and she's super helpful. And it's like, where were you for the first time around?
Yeah. But it's even those hires, though, it's like you learn what you don't want. And that's why I'm like, people are freaking out, like, how do I get the right person? It's like, just hire someone. We're going to go through the process, but get someone on. Just, fail forward, right? Like, get someone on, learn what's not going to work for you, and then just be okay with, moving them on and getting someone new once you've realized what you don't want, and every single hire you make, you learn, like you said, like team dynamics, and there's things that someone might bring in as super easy for them and they really suck at something else. And then you hire someone new, and what was hard for the other person's really good at, but they're not good at the other thing the other person was good at. So, but you build systems for the things that the person was not good at, when they first came in, and you replace them, and then eventually you have systems for everything.
Yeah.
Well, I like to see it anyway.
Yeah, still working on those. But yeah, no, they're going to be super helpful when new people come in. So, yeah, no.
Great. And with a VA, so while we're speaking about VAs, like what was the stuff you handed over to the VA to free you up, and what impact did it have?
Yeah, just invoicing to start with. I kind of stay with them, and that's kind of, we've had her for maybe 2 months, and just doing the invoicing. So having someone help in the background. We haven't had to onboard anyone, but it's all kind of almost ready for her to go. So then when someone else comes in, I won't have to sit down for the day and run through all that kind of stuff.
That's good.
And just checking up to make sure boys have done job notes, making sure their timesheets are on time. Like, they're little things at the end of the day. I've got a young fella, and I like to kind of hang out with him for a little bit at the end of the day. So just those things. She goes through, checks up on everybody. And they found out who she was quite quickly, because she was sending everybody messages, fix your timesheet.
Yeah. Someone's finally onto us, and we've got to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was doing it like this for months. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah. And it's like, you wanted it done the right way in the first place, but we don't have the time, all right? We fall behind ourselves, so we forget to remind them, and it's just frustrating because I wish it was just done the right way. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm about to palm off the social media stuff because I'm rubbish at it. But if I can take pictures and send them on and write a little squiggle, and then she said she'll make it sound a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, just slow and steady, but yeah, that's good.
And that's the evolving of the role. Like you get someone in and they might start as a single, what you think you're going to hire them for. And that now they're there and you realize like I'm over capacity, but they're under capacity. And you're like, all right, well, why don't we give them that to do? And I won't have to do it anymore. And that frees up my time and I can work on, managing pipeline and getting working.
Yeah. The important stuff. Well, it's both important, right?
Yeah, totally. So we were talking about team and culture and, working with different personalities earlier. What have you found has really helped your team do good work out in the field?
The morale of everybody. Even if it's a tough day, all the boys have good spirits. And they kind of just get in and rip in. I used to be one that would like to think that was me. I'd get in and help out in the hard parts and all that kind of stuff, then boost everybody up. But yeah, they seem to be doing quite well at doing it themselves now. So it's all the boys are just a good bunch.
Yeah. Do you think that's who you've hired, or is that something you've developed in the culture and the way that you bring people together and they talk to each other? What caused them to have that attitude?
I definitely think it's both of those. Because before we kind of hired we didn't have questions. It was just like, oh, you're a nice guy. What do you reckon? But it's kind of turned out that kind of hired like-minded and personality-wise is the same as myself and the others. So, and just everyone just gets on the same page and it just works, except for Christmas parties. Everyone gets excited like everybody else and blows out.
Yeah. So what's some examples of poor hires you've made in the past? You don't have to say names. And what impact did that have on your business?
Just jobs you quote that you think should take, say, a day, blow out to 3, and you're just there, and because of where we work, it's hard to get people in, and you kind of just like, oh, yeah, just go a little bit. You're all right. Just keep going it. You're doing all right. Just do it at your own pace, and you just tend to go backwards. Which is, it's tough when everyone else is going forwards and they're kind of working in, first or neutral. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you find that was a challenge to bill for that work to the client? Or is it a quoted job? Then they were just going over and you're losing money? What was the situation?
Yeah, quoted work usually, because we tend to get a mix of hourly, and then when it's hourly, you're like, oh shit, I'll just chuck him on that because it's hourly. That'll be fine. Yeah. And then it's like, shit, there's no more of that. So put him back on a quoted. Which one should we put him on?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how we do that. Yeah, since they're there, you think
it's easy.
I think, it's easy. It's harder to let them go and go through that hard, difficult situation of them moving on and then having to go and interview people and then, try and find the right fit again, especially when you don't have time yourself right now. And it means that I won't get home and, see your little man at the end of the day because, that's what you think about, right? Like it's just going to add extra weight to my day. And so you keep people like that. And we don't realize the impact it's having on everything, like culture, profitability, your spirits as a manager, like everything is affected.
You see the wheels turning, but you just, that's what you look at. You're like, oh, we're still moving forward and getting stuff done. But yeah, the reality.
But you're not thriving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how'd you go about, what was the thing that you had to identify? When was the last straw for that?
That's a good question. I was actually wanting to bring this up. So at the beginning of last year, one of our bloke who we brought up through apprentice, he went off to the tier 1 jobs and then wanted to change. So he asked to come back. And then it got to a point and he wanted to move up and, be a leading hand or something like that. And we just didn't really have that kind of capacity there yet. And then I was like, hold on, maybe I could create a team for you. And then I started looking around, and by the time I'd even found something to help me out, the coaching TSA, he'd already pulled the pin. But we still had a few guys, which was good. But yeah, that was the kind of point I was like, shit, I kind of need to do something to get into and he was also the guy who said, you guys haven't changed in the last 4 years. So it was like,
yeah, right.
So it was, in my head was like, shit, all right, we need to do something about that. Joining this was quite helpful, just making you look at things, interview questions, not just, what do you do on the weekend? Yeah. Are you a good bloke? Do you? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do electrical work? Yep. Okay, cool. You're awesome.
Yeah, sick. I'll see you Monday.
Yeah. I think that was so many hires though. Yeah. I remember back in the day, I was just, good. I got a good feeling. Nice person, good, nice person to speak to, good feeling. And then, you get them out there, and I didn't ask any questions about their technical ability, or they came from, a different type of the work that we weren't doing and completely couldn't do the job. Like, it was just like, oh my God, like, now what do I do?
Yeah, like, what?
It's also interesting with those moments where it seems like a really bad thing. Like, his guy came back, he was really great, and then he left, and he goes, why haven't you changed? Like, you're the same. Like, and then that for you was a trigger, right? And as bad as that moment was, it got you to take action. And because of that action, you've been able to grow into the company you are today.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I did see the positive at the time. Well, not at that first initial week or so. It was like, fuck you. But yeah. But no, it was all good. Like, I understood why I did it, but yeah, we just needed a change. So yeah, it's definitely for the positive.
Yeah, cool. Awesome, man. So what would you say to anyone that might be, struggling to grow their team at the moment? Maybe, not sure how to hire people. What advice would you give to them?
Definitely write down questions that relate to your business. A problem that you've come across, how would they approach it? Little things like that, I would definitely say is a must, because if you can watch someone's face, you can see whether they're trying to bullshit or whether they're like, is it? Yeah. But yeah, no, I'd definitely say to do that and just keep moving forward. Even though you might do 20 steps forward and 10 back, you're still kind of progressing. So just make sure you keep doing that.
Yeah, keep moving forward, man.
Yeah.
One of those when I started doing that, I've got an answer stuck in my brain, which is quite a funny one. And it's about people where they try and answer it, but they have no idea what they're saying. So one of our questions was, the power's gone out at someone's house, but the lights are still on. How would you go about figuring out what the problem was? I know. So the lights have gone out, but the power's still on. And so he goes, I'll go around, to all of the light switches, and I'd turn them on and then off. Then I'd pull all of the light switches off the wall. And then, he went through this elaborate process that he would go through. I was like, you wouldn't go to the switchboard and
see the breaker. Yeah.
And figure out what's going on. Would you check that the RCD is actually broken? Like, take the light side out. It's like, oh my God. This is a funny story.
Yeah, it's definitely their nerves, eh? They kind of just go through and then.
Yeah. You also want someone to say, I actually don't know. Like, I don't know. Can you tell me? Like,
yeah, but they're also probably not the right person either if he's got no idea.
No, that's right.
But you appreciate the honesty.
Yeah. Oh, man. Funny time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Any other last words before we wrap up the show? It's been an awesome chat.
Yeah, it's been real good. No, not really.
Any advice for like how to work with families? That might be a cool one to end on. If you work with family members, like not, I know there's a lot of people out there with brothers or dads or mums or whatever.
Yeah, just make sure you keep on the same page. because it can get very heated. just make sure that after that you talk about it and go through it, and just make sure on the same page. If you're on the same page, you can keep flowing.
Yeah, you're a team, eh? Like
exactly right. Don't work individually, which has definitely happened in our past.
Yeah, I found like with families, it's just get super clear on who's doing what, because as soon as you've got this crossover and role responsibilities, and people are like, you were meant to do that. It's like at another level that you wouldn't do with a friend or like a staff member. It's like just your family. It's like one of my best mates was in same situation as you, brother and dad, in the business, and man, they had some fights. So
yeah, as long as you can go for a beer afterwards, look, it's water off a duck's back, right?
Yeah, nice one. I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for pushing forward and doing what you're doing. It's awesome watching you grow in your business and your family and everything like that. So keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the help.
No worries. See you, mate.
See ya.
Hey guys, it's Greg here. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For me, growing my trade business was extremely hard. It cost me millions of dollars, so much time trying to figure out what was the right way to do business, and emotionally feeling like I'm letting myself, my partner, and my family down by not knowing how to run my business properly. But I kept working hard and overcame those challenges and created systems and solutions that minimized those mistakes for myself and my team as we grew. Now, Response Electricians, go and Google it. We've got over 1,700 reviews on Google. We've won awards like Electrician of the Year and Service Business of the Year, both state and nationally. I sat on the National Board of Directors for Master Electricians Australia for 2 years, created a real solid awareness of the industry and the construction industry and the challenges you face. And the business runs autonomously over in Perth while I live my life working on the academy in Byron Bay. And I help people like you create freedom from your business as well. Now, having coached and trained thousands of trade business owners, we've developed the Freedom Fighters program. It's a guided pathway in a hybrid training and coaching system that provides you with the right information and steps to take to create freedom, not in years, but now. You can actually create more freedom from your business sooner than you think. So click the link and have a free strategy session with one of our academy experts to fully understand how you can create more time freedom from your trade business, generating more profit, better culture, and more growth in less time.